Welcome back to Judge of Character, the show that looks at different interpretations of comic book characters and then determines which one is the best one. And today's defendant is Moon Knight. For those of you who are unfamiliar, Moon Knight is a fascinating character with a very complex personality. So as a result, this episode is going to be an interesting one. I'll be looking at the different aspects of the character and then picking them apart to choose my favorite, as well as giving an overall view. Also, I would like to say before I begin that I am in no way an expert on mental health, nor should I be taken as such. And also, said topics that are going to be discussed in this video are being correlated directly to the fictional character of Moon Knight and only apply to comic book logic and not real life at all. But alright, so with all that out the way, let's begin. Marc Spector started off as a heavyweight boxer and then enlisted into the US Marine Corps. And after his service was up, he became a mercenary and invested all of his ill-gotten gains, which in turn accumulated into becoming a grand fortune. Now, as you can see right off the bat, Marc has three careers that could have easily been used for three different characters, but instead, they were all rolled into one. But we're just getting started, so let's continue. During a mission, Marc was left stranded in the desert. He was found barely alive and brought to an Egyptian temple before a statue of the mystic figure Khonshu. Once there, Marc received a vision where Khonshu offered to restore his life if he takes on the role of being Khonshu's avatar here on Earth, to which Marc agreed. From there, he returned to New York City to become the vigilante known as Moon Knight. However, he also decided to take on some additional personalities as well. Seeing that Marc Spector is known as a mercenary, he thought it'd be best to take on the identity of Stephen Grant, a wealthy high roller among New York's elite. However, the role of Stephen Grant caused him other problems, as this distanced him from the lower working class. And so he took on yet another identity, cab driver Jake Lockley, someone that street level people would feel comfortable confiding in. But we're still not done yet, because just as Marc has different alter egos for dealing with his issues without his mask, he also has a different superhero character to deal with different kinds of threats. Marc has also adopted the persona of Mr. Knight, a hero who consults with the police and deals with street level crime. Meanwhile, his Moon Knight identity mainly deals with larger scale enemies, particularly that of the supernatural. But wait, there's still more, because he also went full fanboy by taking on three other personalities, based off of Wolverine, Spider-Man, and Captain America. However, this arc was not very popular, and spoiler warning, I won't be choosing any of these. But now, maybe if you were wondering that perhaps all this role-playing might have taken a toll on Marc's psyche, well, you might be correct, as he did eventually snap and was diagnosed with having multiple personality disorder. However, the validity of this claim has been challenged, as some have suspected that he's always had these mental health issues and that they only revealed themselves to the public after his meeting with Khonshu. Although, speaking of which, there are some who believe quite the opposite, and that it's actually Khonshu himself that is causing these multiple personalities, messing with Marc's mind from the inside, and that's why they didn't appear until after Marc's trip to Egypt. Oh, and also, let's not forget the possibility that Khonshu doesn't actually exist and is simply just yet another one of Marc's conjurings. But alright, it's time for the verdict. Now first, I want to say that I actually like the multiple personality gimmick for this character, as I think it works to separate him from Batman, a character that Marc has highly been accused of ripping off. However, since I have to narrow things down to just one, let's just start dissecting. In terms of his job, while boxer is a really cool profession and I do like him having a military background, I have to go with his time as a mercenary on this one. The skills that are required for being a gun for hire totally work for being a vigilante as well, and it also makes for a much edgier character. Next, which one of his mild-mannered alter egos is my favorite? Well, the socialite Stephen Grant is out, as how many rich superheroes do we really need? As for Marc Spector himself, well, much of what makes up Marc's personality is in the details of his other personalities that I'm eliminating, so I'm going to have to eliminate him too, which leaves Jake Lockley. And that's perfectly okay with me, because the idea of a recovering mercenary who settles down to become a cab driver I think is really interesting, especially if he's using his job as a cabbie in order to get dirt on New York City's underground, like taxi cab confessions but followed by a brutal sentencing. Then next up, when it comes to his superhero identities, who do I prefer, Moon Knight or Mr. Knight? Well, while it might seem like a waste of his powers, I do prefer Mr. Knight. I like the character being street level as well as working with police. This ties into the character's early established motivation of wanting to redeem himself from his mercenary past. And finally, do I think his multiple personalities are the result of Khonshu taking too many acting roles at once, or do I think maybe he's born with it? Maybe it's Maybelline. Well, I got to say that I really do just like the ambiguity of it all. Like with the TV show Legion, it's fun seeing the back and forth unraveling the layers of this character's madness. But if I have to go with just one, I really like the idea that his mental condition is something that he's born with, or even something brought on during childhood. This keeps it vague enough to explore later on, and also like with the character of Two-Face, I prefer the character having a history of mental illness, as I just think it makes for a much more fun character. But there you go, that's my verdict on Moon Knight. But what do you think? What are your favorite aspects of the character? Let me know down in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe right here to Dave Knows Comics. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, Dave knows.